What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time in Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. We have a great episode planned for you all today, as we're going to do, once again, another mock draft. And we actually have some semi-realistic trades implemented in here that we think could... Theo, I said semi-realistic for a reason, Theo. You decided to be a little bit off the wall. But these are things that we think could happen. But before we get into that, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today?
Oh, I'm doing all right. I think before every mock draft I do and every episode I do, I want to make it clear that I don't think there's such a thing as a bad mock draft, because the actual draft is always crazier than any mock draft that I see. Cole Strange going round one, AJ Brown getting traded for picks last year. Like, you couldn't project any. That's crazier than anything that you could just project without getting called an absolute lunatic. So the trades that I am about to propose, don't be too mean to me, because we've seen crazier things. That is my little rant.
All right. Fair enough. Matt, how are you hanging in there? How's your house?
It's coming along. I'll move back in a couple weeks.
Okay.
I think I've said this before.
Have you?
I don't think so. I think this is the first time that there's been like any kind of set date on it. Usually it just keeps getting pushed back.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be ready by the time we get back from Nashville.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, Matt's coming to Nashville with us now. Gonna be a fun time.
I want to go to Nashville. I'm jealous for you guys.
Come with us, Theo.
I've got too many vacations. I'm going to Portland in like a couple days here, and I was just in Florida, so I can't.
All right.
I can't be world hopping too much.
Well, before we get into the draft, we'll talk about the Lamar franchise tag just a little bit. We talked about it on the live stream, so if you want to hear more about it, go and listen to or go and watch the live stream that we had on YouTube on Tuesday. But for those that missed, here's kind of a synopsis, if you will, because I don't think that's up on the RSS feed yet. Theo, if you want to give your quick thoughts on it.
On the Lamar thing? Yeah, I think that the Ravens, I think there was, people talk about collusion and whatnot, and like, what does that mean? I think what it means, and I think Stephen Ruiz tweeted this and articulated it well, the Ravens felt comfortable letting him hit the open market. The Ravens said, go ahead, test free agency, basically, see what offers you get. The fact that they were confident to do that makes me think they had talked to owners around and been like, yeah, we know exactly what the market is going to be, which
I don't know.
Collusion in some way, but it's like, is that, I don't know. It is what it is.
What makes you say that they were confident in doing that outside of the fact that they know they could match anything, because that's just how the non-exclusive works?
Because they did it. If they thought that there was a real chance that they lose Lamar and that a Deshaun Watson contract gets given out, I don't think they would do that. I think they had to be very, very confident that a deal like that would not get offered to him, or at least pretty damn confident. And so I think the owner of the Ravens, all the owners know each other. I think they all knew that this wasn't happening, and that's what gave the Ravens the confidence to let him be open for other offers. And I still think it's very strange that it's free to talk to Lamar. You can throw a contract at him. You can meet with him. You can show interest, right? That's completely free. You don't have to offer him guaranteed money or anything. Let's just see what he wants. Let's hear him out. If I was the Panthers, I'd be setting up meetings on meetings. If I was the Washington Commanders, I'd be setting up meetings on meetings. And the fact that there's not even meetings being set up, they're just like, yeah, we're staying out of it, makes me think that these conversations have already been talked about in those league circles.
Yeah.
I'm not nearly as confident that there's some like grand scheme against Lamar. I think last year, we talked about the Watson thing. That went on. That was going on for like a year. Do you remember how long that lasted? It got ended instantly by the fully guaranteed contract, like in a day, less than that. I think it's not that crazy that maybe, like, is there something we don't know? Yeah, I'm not confident that it's collusion yet until we hear more. It's definitely weird that teams are not setting up meetings, but that maybe they think that Lamar is completely set on getting a fully guaranteed contract. I also think that maybe the Ravens were, if I'm the Ravens and I can't get Lamar to budge off of a fully guaranteed contract at all, why wouldn't you go non-exclusive franchise tag? What do you have to lose? Nothing. You have nothing to lose. You can only win there. If you know you're going to bring back Lamar, but he can't move off of a fully guaranteed contract at all in negotiations, which maybe is true, but maybe isn't because we don't know the details of that, then yeah, you let him go hit the market and you see if anybody will offer him it. If they do, okay, you match. If they don't, then you've got some leverage you didn't have before.
I mean, if someone offers him the fully guaranteed deal and you don't want to give it to him, I mean, then he can just go play. Like, I think the Ravens would let him go play somewhere else on a fully guaranteed deal.
Especially because I think they get 2 first-round picks if the team actually signs him. So they would definitely get compensation. And I don't blame the Ravens for doing it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm a little bit impressed on how cutthroat it all is, right? I
agree with that.
Yeah. So I don't blame them for doing it. I think like as a business, they're probably handling it well so far, and Lamar might get frozen out. It's looking like he will, and he'll have no choice to either play on the, I don't think this could happen, but would he play on that deal, the 1 year, $32 million one? Could that be a possibility if no one else?
No chance that a guy asking for a fully guaranteed contract is going to play on a 1 year, $32 million deal.
32.
Right. He is not going.
But if no one offers him anything, like
less money,
that might
Daniel
be the reality
Jones.
He faces.
He will not play on less money than Daniel Jones. Like, I'm sorry.
He shouldn't. He shouldn't. But I don't know. I would be very interested in Lamar Jackson. I mean, Seattle traded 2 first-round picks for Jamal Adams. No,
like, how long ago was
Lamar's?
That was
Lamar Beta is what I've got to say. Like, I don't know. People have given up 2 first-round picks for a lot less than a quarterback like him.
Right.
So
that's true. I agree. It's definitely something super weird going on with it. I wouldn't be surprised if the league was against him, but I also think that there being something weird going on with it does not necessarily mean collusion. And I also think if the Ravens are like, we know nobody's going to offer him a fully guaranteed contract, how would that be? Like, maybe they just know that. Maybe they're just like, yeah, we know.
I think the question is, I think it's definitely collusion. I think the question is, do you care? Like, do you care that they all said, like, we're not giving out guaranteed money? Because that might be within their, maybe as owners, if they all said, look, we're not giving out any more contracts like that. Fuck the Browns for this. It's not happening again. If they all said that and they're all strong and not giving the contract out, I guess the question is, like, do you think that's like morally fucked up? I guess that they all colluded to say, like, this is not happening again. Sorry, Lamar.
I mean, I think that's the question. Never happened up until the Watson deal. That was the... Like and
Watson was out on the Browns, right? He didn't want to go there, and then they said,
"Was it Watson? Was it that Watson was out on the? I thought the Browns.
Watson was out on the Browns. Well, the Browns were not out on Watson, otherwise they wouldn't have given him that deal.
That's what I thought the report was, that the Browns were out on Watson, and then like
no, they were very much in on Watson, which is why they gave him.
They were like, you know what?
That's. No, the Watson was out on the Browns because it's Cleveland. But then Cleveland said, wait, I'm going to give you a Scrooge McDuck pile of money to swim in. And he said, well, and that's what happened. So
I hope Lamar gets paid.
I guess teams just aren't as desperate. I hope so too. I like Lamar. So I hope he gets paid.
I'll say that I think
Go ahead.
The offer the Ravens gave him of $133 million guaranteed is insulting. You look at what Kyler got. He got like 190, right? I mean, I get not going fully guaranteed, but like let's get real here. He needs to be bare minimum over 160 million guaranteed, I would think. But I don't want to make it. Maybe that's just like their starting point, and they're hoping to like work somewhere in between those two numbers, which would be about, like Kyler money. But then maybe Lamar isn't willing to come down at all. So they're like, we're not going to go and start moving up without him starting to move down as well. It's impossible to know. I just don't think we know enough details to really give like a for certain statement on how this is played out and who is at fault and who is being bad. But I definitely think it could be the NFL and owners doing that type of stuff.
It's not even who's at fault. Like,
Go ahead.
It's not like something bad has happened. It's just a contract negotiation.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's the thing.
Who is more dug in? I guess they're both dug in. That's why we've gotten to this point.
I thought there was a report that like Lamar was not negotiating. He was like, "These are my demands. Meet them." Right, and that's not a
bad negotiation strategy.
Well, I mean, if then I would say that if that's true, and I don't know if it is, you're a team, and you know that the Ravens have spent 2 years trying to move him down, and he hasn't moved down at all. Gonna be tough for you to move him down, you know.
Right, but also it might be harder for the Ravens to move him down, knowing that it's like what they've surrounded him with is like, well,
so anyway, I'm going to go to the Falcons. You know,
I was saying if the Dolphins hadn't backed out, I would be like, well, that would make a lot of sense. I'm sure you probably could move him down a little bit if you could.
Right. I definitely try to move him down. I'd say if he doesn't want to move down, he doesn't want to move down. But like, I'll schedule the meeting, Mr. Lamar Jackson. And if you don't want to move down, I could say at least I tried. I would definitely try though. You mentioned Daniel Jones, that he wouldn't pay for less than Daniel Jones. If you listen to the live stream, the RSS of that, I kind of hedge on the thing and say like, well, maybe the deal's not that bad. I saw the details this morning, and next year he's got a $45 million cap hit. And I was like, man, I can't do this. I can't defend it.
I'm like, bro, if Lamar plays on less than a 45, like, no.
He's not going to.
He's not playing on that.
But I agree. I'm not a fan of the Daniel Jones deal. I get it. I would have franchise tagged him. Maybe the argument that I'm pretty isn't like his cap hit in 2023 is lower, or what?
It's low in 2023. It's only $19 million, which gives them a lot of money to spend this year. But I'd rather do the franchise tag, because if it was the franchise tag, I believe the cap hit would be like $45 million this year instead of $45 million next year. I'd rather the cap hit be $45 million this year, because this year there ain't anybody to sign. Like, again, the opportunity cost of signing Daniel Jones isn't really that much right now, because if you're giving him the money, it's not just giving him the money, it's also taking away money that you could spend on someone else. And this year, it's very palatable. The opportunity cost is less, because there's just not a lot of other guys to spend money on right now. Like the free agent wide receiver market, the tight ends, like it's Deron Payne was a big name free agent who got franchised. Like there really just isn't a lot of talent in free agency this year. There just isn't. Yeah. So this year should have been the big cap hit for Daniel Jones and then have it get progressively less. But instead, it's the cheapest this year, and then it jumps up to $45 million next year. I mean, I don't know how it all works, but I'd rather that get reversed for this to be called a good deal. Like, it would have had needed to been more front loaded than it is. Instead, it's 19 million this year, then 45, then 39.5, and then 56.5. And there is no way that he is playing that last year, that deal, man. I just do not think he's going to play to the level where we're like, oh yes, $56 million for Daniel Jones 3 years or 4 years from now.
They have to be planning.
Hell of a deal.
They have to be planning to make some trades if they're going cheap on this year. A DeAndre Hopkins trade seems likely. That would make the most sense, right? You give up a pick next year. I don't know.
I could see that.
There's
a lot of guys that
you bring Odell back. You pick up, you trade for D-Hop, and all of a sudden you have a palatable receiving core.
I'd love to see Odell back on the Giants. Saquon and Odell, that'd be so awesome.
Can we get Odell? Yeah, I don't think it's a throwing a pass across the field to Saquon again. Bring it back.
I think last year, like the offense for the Giants, it was mid. It was like average, and their point differential was -6 overall. They were a pretty mid team, and I do think that's kind of their floor. Like, I do think they can get better than mid, and if they play fine, like maybe who cares about the deal if they're in the playoffs again? Like, it's whatever, they're there. But it's just not a super efficient deal to me. It's Daniel Jones. It's like when the 49ers made Jimmy Garoppolo the highest paid quarterback ever, like, or Joe Flacco. Like, I just don't think that these deals this deal is going to age.
The Niners went to a Super Bowl, and
it did. You can't say that they would necessarily regret it, but maybe those resources could have been spent a little.
And why didn't they win the Super Bowl?
Because their quarterback was Jimmy fucking Garoppolo.
Paying a bunch of money for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right.
So that's my thoughts on it. We need to get into the mock draft.
Otherwise, our editor.
The details of the Daniel Jones deal made me feel worse about it. I thought it was going to be even more front loaded than it was, but
it does. I don't feel great about the Giants right now, but if they can make some trades, pull some strings, maybe it'll look a little bit better. All right, let's get into the draft. Theo. So the draft order we didn't disclose that. The draft order is Theo has the first pick. Matt has the second pick. I have the third pick. And then it follows that sequence. We are allowed to do trades. If you make a trade with, like, let's say Theo makes a trade with a team that I have, I now have Theo's, what was Theo's pick?
Yes.
Right, with that new team.
Yes.
With that team. So, Theo, you have the first pick with the Chicago Bears. What are you doing?
Not anymore. The Bears have traded back with a team that I also control. So
you can do whatever
no
you
one
want.
could prevent this. All Matt and Blaiden could do was watch in terror as I traded way back with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, trading all the way up to 1 in this mock draft, which is a little wild. It's a little crazy, but
and what did they give up?
I just can't shake, I guess, the terms of the deal. That's a good thing to disclose. So the Bears get pick 19 this year. They get a first round pick next year, a second round pick the year after that, and Chris Godwin, the wide receiver. So their wide receiving core is Godwin, Claypool, Mooney. Off the top of, like, maybe that changes, but off the top of my head, That's what it would be. And Kmet. Pretty good group of weapons there. First round pick next year, 19th overall pick this year still, which puts them in range to maybe draft even another receiver if they wanted to. But I think that I can't shake the feeling that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are got to be the most desperate team in the league right now. They have Kyle Trask as quarterback, dog, and they don't have that much cap room. They could very easily trade up and get a guy on a rookie deal. I think that makes the most sense. Their team is ready to be okay. It's not a terrible roster, even without Chris Godwin, if they were to have a rookie quarterback. They're also a team that if they start 0-4, 1-5, like Bulls, we're sitting there on the Tuesday live saying, like, oh, Bulls is going to get fired. That's a hard game against the Chiefs or something. Yeah, that's where it is. Just like we were doing with Rule, right? I think there's a lot of heat on them to be good. I do. After last year's disappointment, I'm a little bit surprised Bulls is even still there. So I think that they're totally desperate. I think there's a real chance that they're totally desperate and willing to give up a lot for a quarterback. So it's definitely not a likely scenario, but I figure it's a more entertaining podcast if we entertain some silly possibilities. And the GM of the Bears said, like, he's been really outspoken, dude. Like, he's been on podcasts, like, bragging about all the deals he has in place, which is kind of strange. But he's like, yeah, I've got deals lined up. Like, I'm very confident I can get a 23 and a 24 first, which is just a strange thing for a GM to come out and say. And if we're going to take that at face value, and maybe we shouldn't, it's probably not going to be the Colts or the Texans moving up one spot. So I'm going to have the Buccaneers move up to number 1. And because they're at number 1 and they'll all get fired if they're bad, I'm not going to pick Richardson, even though he is my favorite quarterback in the draft. I think they'd take CJ Stroud, number 1, trade all the way up for Stroud. He was really impressive at the combine with the throwing drills, just absolutely dead on, hitting everybody perfectly in stride, throwing with touch, throwing with power. Like, the deep shots, were beautiful. It seemed like all the reporters, like, I think it was Brugler, who was like, I left the combine and I just couldn't stop thinking about CJ Stroud and how accurate he was. The Buccaneers hired, I think, Geno Smith from Seattle, his quarterback coach, to be their offensive coordinator after they fired Leftwich. I think Stroud reminds me a lot of Geno. That's definitely my comp for him. So I think that that's someone and a play style that they'd be very comfortable working with based on who they have on their coaching staff. You don't have to talk yourself out of, like, oh man, he's way too small, like you do with Bryce Young, or he's way too raw, like you do with Anthony Richardson. Like, he's someone whose accuracy probably gives him a pretty high floor, and someone who I think could impress in interviews and already has impressed in workouts and stuff. And, that Georgia game, maybe that did move people in the league. So that is my crazy scenario to start this thing off.
Fair enough. Look at Theo go, man. Let Theo cook, taking CJ Stroud, first quarterback off the board. That leaves you, Matt, with the Houston Texans. Yeah, second overall.
I think this is a pretty easy pick. I'm going Bryce Young at number 2. I think all rumors we've heard are leaning towards the Texans going with Bryce Young. I know he's undersized. Injury risk is there for sure, but I don't buy that it affects his game maybe as much as it does like a Wilson or so, because he can still throw over the middle. I think he's super elusive. The pocket presence is there. If he was 6'3", he'd be, I think, a lock to be the number 1 overall pick. So I'd go Bryce Young here.
And then that gives me the Arizona Cardinals. And I'm also going to trade back, not nearly as far as Theo did. I'm going to trade back to number 9 with Matt's Carolina Panthers. Well, Matt's not controlling the Panthers, but it's his team. And yeah, the details of that trade are Arizona trades the 3rd pick, obviously, and the Panthers give up pick 9, pick 61, which is their 3rd this year, their 2024 first, and their 2024 second to move all the way up to 3.
61 is the 49ers second.
Is it a second round? I thought it was a 3rd rounder.
It's pick 61.
Oh, yeah, I'm dumb. Whatever. Not.
But yeah, I think it's probably about right if they're moving up to 3 and 2 quarterbacks are already off the board.
Yeah, so you probably move up, and the 2 quarterbacks left are Levis and Richardson. I'm going to take Richardson. I think that's a pretty obvious choice, and
I'm not super confident that's what the Panthers would do, but I don't know. I kind of think the Panthers.
Is that what you would do?
It is what I would do.
Okay.
I'd be pretty happy about trading up to 3 and getting Richardson. But yeah, I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback, but I honestly believe that they're going to be the team to trade up to number 1.
So I traded up to 3 to get Richardson. They could take Levis. I guess that could happen, but I would take Richardson here, and that brings us to pick number 4. Theo, you have the Indianapolis Colts. You're on the clock. What are you doing here?
Well, you got to take a quarterback if you're them, unless you're rolling with another vet like Jimmy Garoppolo or whoever else. They trade for Rodgers because McAfee's influence or something like that. Something crazy like that goes down, but I don't think I see that coming. I think if Levis was here, they'd take him.
Yeah.
Levis is just the quarterback. He looks like a quarterback. he has the release that is like exactly what you're looking for. The body type is exactly what you're looking for. The toughness and the leadership. I think that he is a guy that is extremely likable, and someone who you're comfortable with being, I think, the face of your franchise, and someone who is tough. Like, he played through a bunch of injuries last year, and I think his foot was like pretty messed up all of last season, and he still played through it. So I think NFL teams are gonna like that kind of toughness with him. I think he's gonna do well in the interviews and all that kind of stuff. And he's got the size and the release, like I was talking about. And you could kind of talk yourself into, the offensive line was really bad last year, and the play caller, it was a new play caller who immediately got fired, and he was hurt, and all of these problems. And if you look at the 21 tape, it's better, and the stats are better, and like, he's a quarterback. Every single throw is available for him there on the field. Like, he has got a power arm. The ball explodes out of his hands. You've seen him like roll out, cancel the rollout, and just quickly bomb it like 70 yards down the field. I don't think he's necessarily like super inaccurate. It's just kind of the decision making and maybe trying to force things, which makes sense for his situation last year. I think all of these things, you start to talk yourself into it. You could be like, yeah, we could take a chance on this guy for sure. So I think if he's there, the Colts would certainly not pass on him. I don't know if he'd be their number 1 choice, but he's the guy left, and they need a quarterback.
You didn't trade up, so beggars can't be choosers,
They got outbid. Run Your Pool is the home of competition. It's bringing sports fans and their friends together to connect and compete. They've got over 50 game types for every sport you can think of. Run Your Pool is the one-stop shop for sports gaming. With over 2 million players, there's no better place to run your bracket for your friends, family, or office. Earlier this year, we did an event with Run Your Pool. It was a Survivor League for the NFL. It was great. I love the website. Super easy to use. You can spend 5 minutes throwing this bracket together if you want, or you can dive into all the stats and, take as long as you want. In fact, Run Your Pool is giving you guys the opportunity to compete against us in our very own Stay Hot March Madness Bracket Challenge. If you can prove that you know ball better than Stay Hot, Run Your Pool is giving away cash prizes to anyone who finished in the top 5. All you have to do is fill out your bracket for all the March Madness teams and earn points for each pick you get right. Oh, and did I mention? Entry is completely free. Just head on over to play.runyourpool.com/stayhot to enter your picks when the bracket launches on March 13th. Again, that's play.runyourpool.com/stayhot. Run Your Pool, the home of competition.
All right, Matt, you have the Seattle Seahawks. You probably... I don't even know what you would do. Yeah, it's a pretty easy pick.
I'd take Jalen Carter at 5. Yeah. What else would I do? I guess I could go Will Anderson if you like him more. You're really worried about the off the field stuff. I'm not. I think that's going to be cleared up by the time the draft rolls around. I think if you're Seattle, their game plan is probably they have a couple of quarterbacks that they like all right, and if one of them falls to them, they're going to sit them behind Geno. But if all 4 quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, 4, and the price to trade up to get them is multiple first-round draft picks, they're probably going to say, screw that. We're going to go with the number 1 player on most people boards, which is Jalen Carter. They've got
Fair enough.
Their defense was maybe a little bit up and down last year, but they've got more pieces than you'd think. Carter is obviously a super special player. Adding him would be a big deal. You get the idea. I don't got to explain it that much why I'm taking Carter at 5.
Yeah, his draft projection will depend entirely on how he interviews, and we just can't know that as a bunch of random podcasters. So as far as like the talent goes, that's what we kind of got to make our evaluation on it at this point. It seems like when we're making our
I'll
mock.
star this one and say, let's say something like the Carter stuff for some reason doesn't go well, or the interviews are terrible, or something else comes, like who knows, then I would say Will Anderson, and you'd feel pretty darn good about that too.
Yeah. I was hoping you would take Will Anderson so I could take Carter for the Lions.
Yeah, that's why you're sitting there like, oh, this is a tough one. I don't know what you're going to do.
I don't know, man. Which I guess I could still take Will Anderson here, but then, man, you'd kind of have a pretty small group of, it'd be like him and Hutch, right?
He's not that small. He weighed in at like 255.
Who, Will Anderson? Yeah, he's not that small, but like I would like to have someone beefy inside. So, but I mean, Will Anderson would be the next best player here. So it probably makes the most sense to just pull the trigger on that. Hutchinson weighed at 265. That's pretty.
Houston is the small one.
Yeah, but I'm just like, you wouldn't have the body eater up front, and that's what I wanted. All right, but we'll take Will Anderson, best player available. They need to get some talent there. Will Anderson's a freak, or he's amazing. So
yeah, they've got Houston and Hutchinson who played pretty well last year for rookies. But if Anderson is there at 6, like you take it and figure out the rest later. Houston is small. Like he is a hooper. Like that guy has some moves and some bend, and he racked up the sacks last year. They were all impressive too. I think like he's a better pure pass rusher than Hutchinson pretty easily when you look at like the moves and the quality of the wins on tape when he gets his sacks. But he is small. Yeah. Will Anderson is going to instantly be a 3-down player, great run defender, probably right off the bat. So you've got 2 extremely high motor like guys on either side that could really, really cause some problems if you got Will Anderson and Aiden Hutchinson. So, yeah.
Yeah, you'd be fine there. Theo, you're back on the clock with the Las Vegas Raiders.
The Raiders.
What are you doing here?
I'm going to take who I think the best defensive player is left on the board here for them, which is Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon. Ooh. Actually, that guy moves different. Mm-hmm. That guy reminds me a bit of like Jair Alexander with his start-stop ability, like his click and close. It's all pretty special. He killed the combine, and yeah, he just moves a little bit different. Like he stood out at Colorado and he transferred to Oregon, going from like the worst to the best, and then stood out at Oregon. So I think as far as corner goes, he's got the length, he's got the skills, he's got the, movement ability that you look for. And I think that he's a little bit of a better mover than Witherspoon is, even out of Illinois.
I agree.
And I think that he is a pretty nice corner prospect. You look at other defenders on the board right now, like Nolan Smith, I love, but he's a bit small. Like he is a bit small. I know I took him at 5 in the last one for the Seahawks, but he is a bit small. That's not going to happen. And there's guys like Tyree Wilson, who is super strong and long, but he needs a lot of development, and he's 23 years old. I still like those players a lot, but maybe the guy you feel most comfortable in projecting him to the pro level is one of these corners, and I'll go with Gonzalez for the Raiders.
There's quite a few good corners here. I like Gonzalez. Like you say, he's really a really fluid athlete. He just runs with receivers so well. The one thing I'm a little worried is that he's not this like great press corner, so you don't really get to bring him down a whole lot. I caught him lunging a few times and getting beat that way, falls on his heels a little bit. But, with the kind of speed that he has, I think he'll survive. And those are things that you can fix, right? That's technique that you can work on. So
right. That's exactly where I'm at too. And you'd have Rock Yassin, and you'd have Nate Hobbs, and you'd have like Gonzalez.
That's pretty good.
I think that's starting to make a those are 3 like pretty good corners, I think, and young corners that have the potential to all develop into like high level starters. And Nate Hobbs, I think, is very close. I know he came back from injury last year and struggled a little bit, but man, I love watching Nate Hobbs, especially just as a tackler. Yeah. God, he's so good at tackling.
Nate Hobbs and Mike Hilton, man, those two can.
Maybe you could put him in the slot where he's a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage and have Yassin and Gonzalez on the outside. I guess I haven't thought about it too much, but Raiders need defense, and that's where I'm going.
Yeah. Matt, you've got your rival Falcons on the clock here.
I do. I think that they're in a position, you're drafting this high. It's kind of my philosophy in the draft, but you also have so many needs if you're the Falcons that you're just taking best player available. And I think right now that's probably Tyree Wilson for me. There's some people who will argue that tools-wise, he should go above Anderson. Now, I don't buy into that, me personally. I get it, but I'm sorry. I'll take if Anderson had like really terrible tools or something, or if Anderson wasn't, right. I do kind of get it. Like maybe Anderson isn't the number 1 overall pick or whatever, but I still like him more than Wilson. But yeah, dude, I mean, I get the hype. You saw how high Trayvon Walker went last year, number 1 overall. That's pretty good. Yeah. With Wilson, He's just a manhandler. He's 275. He moves really well. And then it's hard not to get. You can't get yourself too excited about the combine, but it's hard not to get excited about it. What was it, like 85-inch wingspan? Something ridiculous, dude.
Turn on the film with him. Like I didn't even know what I was looking at. I think I said this before, but like I didn't know which one was him. Like right off the bat, and you turn on the film, and you're like, there he is. There he is. I didn't know what number he was. I didn't know what position he plays. It's the one who looks like Kawhi Leonard. It's the one who looks like a basketball player. Like he is gigantic, and he doesn't know what he's doing. And his pressure rate was still like higher than Anderson's last year, albeit against worse competition and maybe against a little bit less attention, but. Yeah, he still has a long ways to go, but the baseline is very high just because against bad tackles, he'll just be able to go.
Yep.
Long arm them. Yeah. Push them over.
I honestly think that if you get Tyree Wilson at 8, you feel pretty good if you're the Falcons. I think that's, for me, it was either I have written down it's him or Gonzalez. So if it hadn't been him, I think it would have been Gonzalez. So if you're the Falcons, I think you feel pretty good about getting somebody super athletic or awesome, because 4 quarterbacks are probably going above you, and then Anderson and Carter, and then Gonzalez and Wilson. So right, you're in good shape at 8.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that leaves me the Cardinals. And that doesn't leave me Tyree Wilson.
No, it does not, I'm afraid.
No, it does not. But I will probably go with my current cornerback one, which is Joey Porter. That's who I've been falling in love with recently. Really, really solid press corner. Doesn't have the fluidness of Witherspoon or the movement skills, but he just never lets anyone really get behind him. He's always just like squared up with the receiver. He's got these long ass arms.
He does.
So it's like he just gets in your frame. He just gets in your frame, and you can't do anything about it after that. Right? He'll just sit. He'll mirror you across the line of scrimmage because all these receivers, they want to dance, and he'll just mirror all the way down the line of scrimmage. And as soon as they pass, he just punches them in the chest, and they just don't go anywhere. He has play after play where he'll just ride someone all the way out of bounds. And it was like, oh, well, then what about in-breaking routes? Well, he'll just ride them all the way inside. The only one who was really able to get a lot of separation against him, or any separation against him on in-breaking routes, was Marvin Harrison.
Which is understandable.
Right. It's Marvin Harrison, right? What are you going to do? But even then, he was closing on passes. Like he'll get, a couple yards separation on a dig route, and Porter closes on it with pretty decent speed. It's Marvin Harrison though. So even when you're closing on that, he still is probably going to catch it. But everyone else, I mean, he doesn't get thrown at either. Right. So it's like, it's a lot of respect. The guys like, Witherspoon, or, there's a lot of these other corners, they get targeted a ton. Cam Smith, Christian Gonzalez, Stevenson, they get targeted substantially more than a guy like Porter does. So I'm going to take Porter, a guy that I kind of consider to be locked down at this point.
So that gives me the Eagles.
It gives you the Eagles.
10.
Yeah.
Now I start to get it like, should I draft Nolan Smith range here?
I think I know what I would do. I
thought about it at 9, but
What do you think I should do, Matt?
I think Devon Witherspoon at 10 for a team that can't pay everybody, and one of those guys is Bradbury. I think that's a steal here at a position that you can use. That would be shaping up really well for the Eagles. And honestly, with how much I like these top 3 corners, I wonder if that's their game plan.
I think so too, and that's kind of where I'm leaning as well. He doesn't have any of the size
3
concerns.
corners and 4 quarterbacks in the top 10.
Well, that's the kind of class that it is.
Yeah.
It's good at corner. It's good at corner, and it's good at quarterback, and it's deep at a couple different positions. It's pretty good at tight end, I'd say. I don't know if anyone is worth like a top 10 pick or anything, but when you look at the top defensive players in this draft, like who's worth a top 10 pick, you look at the corners. They're the ones who kind of combine the size to play the position and also the nuances. Like there's not a lot of guys who check both boxes. So yeah, I will go with Witherspoon. Slay is getting older. They're looking at Matt Patricia, who I don't know if he could coexist with Slay. That's just a rumor, I think, right now, that they would bring him to the staff, but I know Slay hates that guy. We got Bradbury, who is a free agent. So these guys aren't going to be around forever. Even if they do manage to re-sign Bradbury and Slay sticks around and Witherspoon's not on the field a ton his rookie year, it's still okay because Slay is getting up there, right? And you could just always use corners. Guys get hurt. You got to have someone, maybe one of them could play in the slot. I think Witherspoon has some safety versatility because maybe he's not the greatest mover in the entire world, but he's got such good physicality and ball skills. So like if you wanted to throw him there his rookie year, maybe that could happen. It's a versatile piece. You draft someone with that kind of athleticism and that kind of talent and that kind of physicality, and you find a spot for him. I have faith that the NFL team will be able to do that, even if they have 2 good corners already. So yeah, I'll take Witherspoon here if I'm the Eagles. And I think that it's definitely not impossible that we see a run on corners early.
Yeah. It's an important position to have. Matt, let me ask you something before you pick the Titans. After you pick the Titans, the Texans are up. You picked for the Texans earlier. Do you want that pick too, or are you going to entrust it with me?
You can pick it.
Okay.
It's not real life, and I don't care about the Texans anyway, so it's it's fine by me.
Valid.
No offense,
Okay.
Texans fans. I just have no strong
No
feelings about
allegiances.
this team. I mean, I don't even
I'm
care.
just saying, you picked for them earlier. I thought you might want some.
Are you
cohesion
saying that
there.
because you have some great idea for what the Titans should do?
No.
Because I'm willing to hear you out.
No.
I think they could go with another receiver because their receiving core is so bad here. I also think that maybe they could play it safe and go offensive lineman. The problem is that I think now with Witherspoon gone, the guys that I'm like really excited about, who I think are like, I don't want to say blue chip, but like the top tier prospects are gone, and you need so much if you're the Titans. I'm not sure exactly what you should do. I think my options are go with a receiver, go with Skoronski maybe, or go with Nolan Smith, since I think he'd kind of fit what the Titans like out of their edge rushers, because they've had a lot of smaller edge rushers before. But I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't mean to struggle with the pick here, but
It's tough. If I were you, I'd just punt and take Osiris Torrance. He's my favorite lineman.
Theo, Osiris Torrance's biggest supporter.
I've
come to that conclusion.
I
this
haven't
morning.
watched him, so I have
like that
nothing
guy.
against that take. I just think a guard who tested poorly going at 11 speaks to this draft, I think.
Isn't that basically what happened last year with
Well-
Cole Strange?
I don't care how he tested. He's a guard, dude. Like,
Sorry,
I don't
dude,
know,
his
man.
broad
You don't
jump
need to
sucked.
take the top off.
He is a fourth rounder.
He doesn't need to take the top. He doesn't need to take the top off the defense or anything. Like, he's got good play strength and he's smart and he recognizes things and, you know, picks them up. He just does his job and does it at a high level. So I like Torrance, but if I were you here, whatever you want to take, Paris Johnson, who has probably a much higher athletic ceiling and plays maybe a more important position. Same with a bunch of other guys. Like, that's probably what I would do if I was the Titans here. But you can also just trade Derrick Henry hypothetically to take Bijan Robinson if you wanted to get a little crazy.
Take Bijan.
You know, I think I think I'm going to go with Paris Johnson. I think that's pretty realistic for them. If you feel like you're going into a little bit more of a rebuild, maybe you don't care that Johnson's a little bit more of a project. And while I don't think that he's, you know, I thought he was pretty good for Ohio State last year. I definitely don't disagree. There's some things to work on. But the Titans' offensive line play has been rough recently.
Yeah.
So no matter which direction you take the team in, which I guess I'm not supposed to project, at the end of the day, getting a young, high ceiling tackle is going to be good. And if he develops properly, it's going to be a good thing for him. So I don't think I would go Paris Johnson here, but I think there's a pretty decent chance that the Titans, in weaker drafts, teams always like to play it safe by going offensive line. And I think that's possible here. But I also think the receivers are an option. Nolan Smith is an option. They've got some decent choices to make.
Yeah, he's just got such an ideal frame for a tackle. Like, he's got the long arms. He's 6'6". He moves really well. He's flexible, bendy. He can kind of contort himself to buy a little bit of extra time. It was his first year playing.
That's
left
true
tackle,
as well.
And you can kind of tell. You can tell like he's raw, but yeah, he's definitely got a very high ceiling, and I could totally see a team falling in love with the traits. The same way Richardson, right? Richardson started 1 year at quarterback, and it's a little bit different because Paris Johnson started 2 years. One was at guard, but it was only 1 year at left tackle, so he's a bit raw. But man, the frame is so enticing, and the athleticism is so enticing. I could see it happening.
Yeah. All right, so that gives me the Texans, because Matt doesn't seem to want to build some cohesive team with the Texans here. But that's okay. They kind of have a lot of needs too. You would probably want to maybe bolster up the offensive line a little bit. Maybe you want to get some receiver help. Maybe you want to get some. If this was a great linebackers class, that would be something that you would really want. But
There's nobody to take at linebacker here.
yep. So honestly, you got Bryce Young. You know that he can move a little bit. I think you want a guy that can just kind of take the top off the defense. You have Brandon Cooks. Actually, no. changing my mind. You have Brandon Cooks. I want a guy that can settle. I want Jackson Smith and Jigba. I want a guy that can just get open in space, make life easy for Bryce Young, and that's what JSN can do for you. That's what
I agree.
Sadly, he will not be able to see JSN.
Relax. You act like JSN can't outbreak. He's going to line up in the slot and he's going to run 10-yard outs, that sail routes all day.
I mean, I get it. They need receiver help, and Brandon Cooks may even get traded.
Yeah,
I think so. Like, if they don't have that, they'll really need a receiver.
I was thinking
to help.
I was thinking Quentin Johnston. I was like, get a big guy that can go up and get shit for you. But I'm like, well, because that's kind of what the Bengals came. They were just like, let's just get T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, and we're just gonna chuck deep balls. But Johnson really isn't the type of player that those guys are. Like, at least like the same caliber. So I was like, let's get a guy that I know can just get open and make some
separate. Yeah.
Yeah.
JSN is my wide receiver one. So if he's the first wide receiver off the board, I can't complain. We got to clip it along here. So the next pick is the next pick is
the Jets.
No, it's not. It's the Jets.
But
we're trading. I'm doing another trade here. I have the Jets pick. I'm trading for Aaron Rodgers to my Packers because, look, it's time. It's time. Why would you want to run back the Packers season that they had last year? That shit was ass. So if someone's giving you a first round pick and it seems like the Jets have interest, and I guess as the Jets, I'm interested in giving the Packers a first round pick.
Yeah.
How
about
pick 13 goes to
what about
Green Bay.
What about your first round picks for the next 500 years?
Yeah, that was my initial offer to Blaiden. Got to give the Packers as many first round picks as possible. But Blaiden, you control the Packers. You accepted this deal with me, so you're on the clock.
I have 2 picks with the Packers, and I'm going to make this worth my while. Jeez. I'm gonna start out by taking your guy, Nolan Smith. A little bit small.
They would never, ever pick him over Miles Murphy, but I think they should.
I'm going to start out with your guy, Nolan Smith. And then after, we'll see what Matt does with the Patriots, but I don't think he'll take my next guy. That will take it 15. So.
Oh, man, that makes me want to try to figure out who your next guy is more than anything.
Oh, it's Branch.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yo, shut up, Theo. Shut up.
I know.
Yeah, I like the Nolan Smith pick. I think he's super talented. He's a little bit smaller, but yeah, maybe that's not what the Packers are going to do. Sitting here with the Patriots, they could use another tackle. They could use an edge. And I think that I think if you want somebody who's kind of got like more of an interesting body type, and I'd like to see, or more of an interesting skill set, and I'd like to see how they could be used in maybe a unique way, or if I get him to somebody who could use him in a unique way. I wonder if Lucas Van Ness could go here at 14 to them and see what Bill Belichick could do with him. He's versatile, and I think Belichick would really like that. I'm maybe not the highest ever on him, but I do get it. His bull rush and his long arming of people, it's awesome. Does a great job with that. If you feel like you can develop him a little bit more, because he didn't necessarily get as many snaps at Iowa as you would have liked them to, because they had him coming off the bench. I think he could develop into something pretty special.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't spend a single pick on a front 7 player last year, and they've got some good ones, definitely. But Judon, I think he's getting up there in age, and yeah, you could kick Van Ness inside. I really think they'd go tackle. Like, I disagree with you here. I really think they'll go tackle because they don't really have one.
Yeah, my Anton Harrison was the other guy I was considering. Fair enough.
But I definitely think, like, after just completely ignoring front 7 last year, they could definitely go in that direction. So yeah. But Blaiden, you can now pick your guy here.
All right. Yeah, I'm taking Brian Branch. He's probably the best safety in this class. Just an absolute hammer. I mean, I've talked about him before. I don't think I need to elaborate on just everything that he can do. He just kind of lines up everywhere. He's in a Saban defense, and Saban defenders that typically are projected to be good. They typically are. right? They're typically not wrong about
Alabama defensive backs. Yeah, they have a pretty high hit rate. That is true.
There's some other guys in this class too. Like I think they have another safety and a corner. Like what is it? Eli Ricks.
Battle. Oh, that Ricks too. Ricks is also nice.
Battle and Ricks are both in this class. I haven't gotten around to them a ton yet. I'm just like, well, they're Bama DBs, so they're probably okay. But I'm not sure if they're on the same level that Branch is, which I know he's good. That man can ball.
And they would give the Packers a lot of multiplicity on their back end. Like there's been talk that maybe Rasul Douglas could move to safety because he's not really the quickest guy out there. Like, and his foot speed can get him in trouble sometimes, but he's very physical with good ball skills. So people think that he can he's very smart. So people think he could make a good safety, and I think they've toyed with the idea of moving him there. Darnell Savage, they picked up his fifth-year option, so he's still on the team. They've been experimenting moving him to the slot. There's Brian Branch, who can play all over the place. Yeah. Jair can play outsider in the slot.
Brian Branch, like
everyone
corner, like you can put him anywhere, man.
You could tinker with the lineups, and someone's got to play safety because Amos is a free agent, and Rudy Ford is the other guy. And I like Rudy Ford, but you could probably upgrade from him if you really needed to. So,
and you said Savage wasn't
I think that they could build up.
You didn't like how Savage played last year.
No, Savage got benched. And for Ford. So Savage is there, like he can be useful somewhere, but he's probably not going to be one of your starting two safeties next year. So I like the Branch pick a lot. All right, I would be down.
We're only at pick 16. We got to get rolling. We're at 50 minutes. Matt, Washington.
We'll speed run this.
Or wait, is this Matt's pick?
That'd be
Theo's. This is your pick.
This is my pick.
Yeah.
This is when I get to take O'Cyrus Torrence. And this is easy because I already talked about what I like about him. The interior of the line for Washington was pretty bad. It was rough. He played center when he was with the Raging Cajuns at Louisiana Tech. And he could have been a first-round pick there. Like, he was a pretty highly regarded prospect at Louisiana Tech. And then he said, like, I need a bigger challenge. Like, give me harder battles. And he transferred to the SEC and just dominated there too. Which I like. That's dog mentality. He's good, man. He is a dog. I love O'Cyrus Torrence. He's smart. He's tough. He just does what he needs to do to get the job done. And I'm a really big fan of his technical skill and proficiency and size and everything. So I think that he's going to be a really solid guard prospect. So that'll be a quick pick.
Fair enough. Matt, you have the Steelers. What are you doing with them?
They desperately need offensive line. I'm a big fan of guys who come out and are technically sound pass protection wise out of the gate. I think Anton Harrison is that. I think at 17, that's pretty good value. They could also, we kind of have Skoronski slipping down here a little bit, and I don't really believe that he's going to fall that far. But I'd like to see the Steelers get a tackle, and I think it's pretty set in stone that Skoronski's not going to be a tackle at the NFL level just due to size concerns. So I'm taking Harrison here at 17.
This episode of Stay Hot is brought to you by our friends over at Shady Rays. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers world-class products rivaling tons of other brands that I've tried in the past. They have you covered from sun to the slopes with premium polarized shades, customizable snow goggles, and so much more. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. And if for whatever reason you don't instantly fall in love like I did, just exchange for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop with Shady Rays. Their team always has your back. But I think my favorite thing about Shady Rays is their emphasis on giving back. To date, they have donated over 20 million meals to fight hunger with Feeding America. So with Shady Rays, you know you can look good and feel good, helping to make a difference. Now, exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the new year. Go to shadyrays.com and use the code STAYHOT for 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 200,000 people. Shady Rays, making an impact together.
I was really interested to see this, but Charles McDonald for Yahoo polled some scouts that he met at the combine, and the most popular answer for their favorite tackle in the class was actually Anton Harrison, which surprised me because he's my favorite tackle in the class. But to actually hear the NFL guys say that, it took me a bit by surprise. He could definitely go very high. Very clean pass protector, youngest guy in the class. So he's nice.
If a guy's got the size and he's already like solid in pass protection in college, I understand you want someone like Paris Johnson who's good and he's got all the traits, but like don't overthink it. That's who is the Ryan Ramczyk. Exact same thing happened with him. He went at 25. He never should have. He was so good pass protection wise in college, and he ended up being fantastic.
That brings me to Detroit. I actually don't know what to do with the Lions here at this point. Their offensive line is good.
Anything on defense.
That's what exactly. It's just like literally more defensive players.
Miles Murphy is still there.
Murphy.
You just took.
That's what I'm saying. So here's my predicament.
Anything but.
So here's my predicament. Right? It's like I would love to get some guys.
I see how the board is. Okay, I don't disagree.
Right? You see my problem, Matt. You see my problem. It's like
you can't really go receiver here. I guess you could. You could go receiver.
You could go Quentin Johnston.
You could go Bijan.
Here's the thing. I don't agree with it, but I think the Lions.
This man despises DeAndre Swift.
Well, they hate him too. They want to get rid of him, and they start like Justin Jackson over Swift. Don't take it from me. Take it from them. Look at he gets like 5 carries a game, even when he's healthy. Like, I'm sorry that people are like, why do you hate DeAndre Swift? Look at that. He gets 5 carries a game. Yeah, I don't know.
But
there's reports that they might move on from him, and you might want to
Swift. Lions fans,
they do love
Swift.
I'm not taking Bijan here. What if I just took Jahmyr Gibbs?
Oh, I know who you could go here.
Actually,
exactly. That's.
I think Michael Mayer could very easily go here. They don't have a tight end. Although does Detroit want to go with another first round tight end? But you could.
That's not a bad idea. I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about a tight end because I was like, damn, do I really have to pick a receiver here? Because like you saw what the defense looks like at this point. I like that idea, Matt. I'll take Michael Mayer. I like that.
I guess my question would be, if they traded Hawkinson, how much do they value tight end? Are they going to trade Hawkinson and choose not to pay him and then turn around and draft another tight end? But I mean,
you see that happen a decent amount.
Yeah,
like the Vikings did with Diggs. They traded a wide receiver in Diggs because
Jefferson.
He didn't want to be there, and then they drafted Jefferson. It can be okay. Like if you think like. I think it's very possible that Mayer is just as good as Hawkinson is, and then you just got him for way cheaper,
Right.
So
he could get better.
It's a possible way.
Okay, fair enough.
That brings the Bears.
Chicago. Okay.
Chicago.
So they probably need some pass rush, huh? And who is no longer, so it's probably Miles Murphy here, falling all the way to 19. I
think that's
a pretty
ADP,
open and shut case.
His ADP is 18 and a half.
Really? Is it really that low these days?
It's really that low.
I kind of don't buy that, but yeah, if he falls this far, like they run a 4-3, Eberflus typically drafts kind of bigger ends like Kwity Paye and whatnot. Like usually it's a pretty big guy, and he's got a lot of work to do, but if he's falling this far, like he is big with a great first step, and that might just be enough for NFL teams to be like, sure. I don't love him as a prospect, but he can really convert speed to power. I wish he would do it more than he does. He for some reason thinks that he is Hassan Reddick and tries to win around the edge all the time. It's like, bro, that is not your game. But he really can convert speed to power and be a pretty good power rushing defensive end one of these days. So Chicago needs an edge rusher in the worst way. They need to add talent to that front seven. So we'll go with, they trade all the way down, get all those picks, and they come away with Chris Godwin and Miles Murphy. I think Bears fans would be happy with me.
Yeah.
So that brings me to the Seahawks. And this is an easy one, too. They need interior offensive line help. Skoronski is a guy who's going to play inside. Him falling to 20 is... I've seen him go more in the top 10 in mock drafts than I have at 20. Technically, super sound. Just doesn't quite have the length to be a standard tackle. Seattle has been talked about as a team with a bad offensive line since as long as I can remember. I mean, the entire time Wilson was there, I felt like, or at least towards the end where it was like, let Wilson cook, but the offensive line sucks so bad. Now they're starting to turn it around. I think Skoronski would be a pretty.
Once Wilson leaves, the offensive line looks better. I guess they did draft two pretty good.
No, they also drafted like two good rookies.
Well, maybe it starts getting better the second you get 2 first-round draft picks for him, and all of a sudden you can use those on offensive linemen, and you don't trade. Instead
Wilson
of trading,
did make it look worse though.
Yes, yeah.
Instead of trading 2 first-round draft picks for a safety, you're getting 2 first-round draft picks. It's a little bit different. So I'm going Skoronski here. I think it's a very easy pick. It'd be very easy value. You'd feel great about the Seahawks draft.
You were just talking about when you took Harrison. You were like, man, Skoronski's fallen, and look at that. Fell right into your hands.
I got him too.
Fell right into your hands. So that gives me the Chargers, and I think position-wise, this is obvious. I'm going receiver. They need someone that can create, just like they're doing these like flip passes to Keenan Allen, the little drag like dog. Cut it out. It's not working. let's get someone that can move in space. I'm a pretty big fan of Zay Flowers and what he can do in space. He breaks a lot of tackles. He's elusive, quick, fast. And he put on some weight, which was really impressive for him to put on.
He's a little ball of muscle, dude. You see him,
bro,
I saw him do some interview. He's just like a little
he's shredded. I'm like,
he's got like, I don't know what these muscles are at the like.
He's got his traps. He's got his traps.
Yeah, his traps just like go up like a cartoon character.
He's nice. He's nice with. I think he's exactly what they need. I think he fits that offense so well.
He passes the just watching him on TV at the bar, who is that guy test for me. So I'm very, very high on him.
Yeah, that's the test that everyone needs. Baltimore. What are they doing?
I'll be honest, Bears fans also, I kind of forgot that they just need pass rushers so bad because they traded them all away that I kind of forgot they also need offensive line.
Yeah.
I probably could have taken there's some offensive linemen I like more than Murphy, but no takesies backsies. But sorry,
you could have taken
if you're listening to this and are disappointed, or you think there's some flaw in my logic. Like, don't you like offensive linemen more than you like Miles Murphy? Like, yes, that's true, but they just need edges so bad that I was blinded.
Yeah.
But Baltimore, I'll take Jordan Addison. I think that with Monken there and Lamar potentially not there, ? And even if he is there, there's going to be more of an emphasis on the downfield passing game. It's not going to be the Greg Roman, like impeccably designed running attack, but questionable passing game. I think that they're dead last in investment in offense. The Ravens are they just don't really spend on offense very much. And I think it's kind of time to change that with the Lamar deal and add some wide receivers for the new scheme. So if Jordan Addison is here, I don't think that he's going to be super fantastic or like this crazy Jamar Chase level prospect or anything like that. But I think that he's a good enough route runner and reliable enough that he's going to be a pretty good pro. So that's what the Ravens need, some good pros in that receiving core.
Johnston's falling pretty far at this point too. So
and I'm considering taking him with the Vikings. I mean, which is the next pick. They could use another receiver. I think it's probably about Thielen's time, but they need a lot. I'm not really 100% sure where I want to go with the Vikings. Yeah. I don't know if you guys had any strong thoughts on them.
I do have some suggestions. The corner class is pretty deep. It's not once you get past the guys that we already took. They desperately need a
corner, but I don't know if I like anybody at 23.
Well, here's the other thing. They did draft some guys last year. They have was it Byron Murphy?
The Clemson Booth. They got
Andrew Booth.
Byron Murphy plays for the Booth.
Andrew Booth. I'm like, who the fucking they have Andrew Booth.
Close. He has been a pro for years.
Andrew Booth. And then they have another guy, I think, but they were both hurt.
That's true.
But
I haven't seen Johnston to the Vikings, and I think it would kind of be exciting.
Yeah, I think that'd be a way where you're like, how can we take this offense to the next level? We want another guy out there next to him because Thielen really was starting. He's starting to get up there. And maybe you just say we've got a fair number of needs. If we're the Vikings, we're pretty versatile in what we could draft. So if we get something nice like Johnson, who is a little bit more of a project, I think. I'm not 100% sold on him, but here at 23, that's probably good value. So yeah, that's what I'll end up doing.
And you wouldn't need to rely on him like a whole lot because you've got Hawkinson and you've got Jefferson to be your security blankets. And if he's good to just be that like deep threat and maybe just for a couple plays, like an explosive play every game or just like a couple, he doesn't need to end the season with like a million yards, but it would be nice to have another more dynamic threat down the field, which they just don't really have right now in Thielen and Osborne. They're not quite like that. So I think that it's a valid pick, a wide receiver 2 next to Jefferson.
Wonderful.
Yeah. It is a valid pick. And that gives me Jacksonville. Jacksonville's in a pretty good spot. They have some decent guys already. It's like maybe, I don't even know, man, what do the Jags really need other than maybe another receiver? Or no, because they just got,
you could find one.
They got Calvin Ridley back.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe a corner. And there are some guys I like here. Like I think Cam Smith's pretty good. He has a really nice break on the ball. You know what? I'm gonna take someone who's a little bit, this might be a little bit out of the box. But I think if they really want to just emphasize being like a physical defense, I think Tyreek Stevenson might be the pick here.
Who?
Yeah, I heard that who before you said it, man. In that exact inflection. I knew that was coming.
Tyreek Stevenson, man.
Maybe that I don't know ball, but who? Like seriously, who is that?
Man.
I'm sorry.
Let Tyreek Stevenson cook. No, he's just like this physical corner. He's being projected in like the early second round. He went to Miami.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is. His ADP is
which Miami?
Florida. Okay. He's not just like an Oxford guy that I'm showing love to.
Hey,
He's a pretty big guy.
He's
like 200. He's like 214 pounds or something. He's a pretty big guy. A little bit older. He's going to be like 23 here pretty soon. But man, his press, like he's just a physical guy. He will get in your chest. He will pop receivers. The only thing that's a little bit difficult on him right now is that his 2022 tape isn't available, but his 2021 tape, I'm just like, man, this guy's physical as shit. And then he was at Georgia before that, and he was more of a slot guy there. And then when he finally got outside, I'm like, okay, this guy can put up some decent, physicality, some contact. He can be aggressive. You don't like it, and I know that, and that's okay.
Well, let's take a guy.
Look, he's just not. He just doesn't have a second round ADP. Like he's got a 4th round grade from the draft. Now I just haven't heard his name at all. I just don't think that he's like one of these borderline first rounders. But if you like him, it's your pick.
Hey,
it's your pick. Cole Strange
all
wins.
I'm saying. I might change my mind when the 2022 film comes to my table. And if that happens and I'm like, you know what? He stinks. Then he stinks. But from what I saw from last year, I was like, you know what? This guy can get in your chest. He can he'll come downhill and like set the edge in the run game. I'm like, you know what? This guy's a physical dude. If he can get into like a physical defense like Jacksonville, he can make some plays. He can make some plays for them. So that's who we'll take here. Over Matt's Cam Smith, who I do like also. I have Cam Smith over Stevenson. I'm just being goofy and taking Stevenson instead of him.
Fair enough.
All right.
Okay, so that gives me the New York Giants.
Yeah.
You took Michael Mayer.
Yeah, Michael Mayer's gone.
I will take Dalton Kincaid here. I don't love any of the wide receivers who are left as first round guys. And what are they saying? We need to get more weapons for Daniel Jones, more weapons. I think the best weapon left is Kincaid. Like, he catches everything. He's great at high pointing the ball. He's great yards after the catch. Once he catches it, he gets upfield quickly, just eats up space. Great after the catch as well. I think that he's the best receiving weapon best left on the board. And they don't really have a tight end that you'd say, like, this guy is a every down player. And I don't know if even Kincaid is quite that, but can he be like a power slot? Yes. Like, I think that he can be a pretty effective receiving weapon pretty fast, and he could definitely be the best receiving weapon on the team pretty fast, honestly. So that's the whole goal. That's what everybody's saying about Jones. You just gave him this big contract, and he needs help. So let's get him some help.
Yeah, get some dogs in there. All right, Dallas.
Yeah, my next pick. I'm going to end up going Brian Brees. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of him personally, but at the end of the day, he is a super toolsy guy, and we're getting pretty late in the first round here, and I think it's absolutely reasonable for a team that has taken a toolsy guy who's a pass rusher before and had it work out for them. I think it's totally reasonable they could say, here, we could draft him. He does have some, he's a great athlete, and we think that we could develop him into a better overall player. I think it's decent value. I think they could use an interior defensive lineman. So I think the positional need and the value here kind of line up, even if I'm maybe not, even if I don't necessarily love him.
Yeah, Brzee. You got to look at the 2021 film before he tore his ACL and his Brzee, yeah, is how you pronounce it, I think. But he had like a kidney. He had a whole host of problems go wrong this year. He's recovering from the ACL. His like sister died, and then he dealt with like a kidney infection or something crazy that like you never hear about. It's like, man, so much bad stuff happened in this year. And I would say, like, to get sold on Brzee, you have to watch the UNC game, because he was kind of hooping in that game, and he was coming off the edge and beating guys. So yeah, I could see it. I could see it for sure with Dallas, and an interior defensive lineman is high up on their list of needs. So
yeah.
All
right, here we are with the Buffalo Bills, and man, I don't know what to do with them. Like, I don't love the receivers here.
Offensive line, I think, is the easiest thing for them.
Probably.
In my opinion.
Probably. And what, like, who would you even take? Like, I guess you could take, like, because they don't really need
Broderick Jones, DeJuan Jones.
I was thinking they probably need more help on the interior, don't they? But
yeah, but there's really not anyone to take there. I mean, Spencer Brown is their right tackle, and he had a promising rookie year, but he was kind of miserable this year, and I don't know if they would like really be down to run that back.
I guess that's fair. I will probably trust in the Ohio State offensive line and take DeJuan Jones here. That seems...
Fuck you. I was going to take him with Cincy's pick next.
You could always trade the pick and get Derrick Henry.
No. I couldn't do that.
All right. Well, you have Cincy, so are you going to take Broderick Jones then?
Yeah, I do like Broderick Jones a bit more than I like Darnell Wright as far as tackles go. Broderick Jones plays left tackle, and you would think Jonah Williams gets another shot to start there. Darnell Wright is a right tackle, but I don't know. I do like Jones a bit more than Wright, so I'll say we'll hope that he can play right tackle. Jones is someone who's very good in space. He's I think probably the most highlight filmy run defender when he gets out like on the move, laying guys out. Ike Ekwonu is always the gold standard for this, but he's kind of the closest to that like run crunching guy. He's big. He has a wide base all the time. I like his footwork. Punch needs work. That's true for Paris Johnson, Darnell Wright, and Broderick Jones. They all of their hands, they try to like hug their guy instead of really trying to be violent with their hands, which needs work. But I do like Jones a decent amount. He's got the frame. He's got the athleticism. He'd be a nice pick for them. I'd try him out at right tackle and see what happens. Lael Collins is not it, and Jones. He didn't allow very many pressures or sacks or anything this year. He played at Georgia. You've got to be an amazing player to even start there. Yeah. So I always like taking guys from those powerhouses. So Broderick Jones for Cincinnati, I don't think that'd be a terrible pick. I hope he could play right tackle.
Fair.
And then that leaves me with the Saints, and as tempted as I am to take a punter or something, because I don't like the Saints.
A punter?
We're trading this pick to the Panthers for Ian Thomas.
Yes. I'm sending Shi Smith as a double agent to the New Orleans Saints. This works out quite well. I'm not 100% sure. They could use interior defensive line. I think they could use some help on the offensive line, but now there's really not very many people to take after a run just happened on them. You could even argue they could use another receiver. Maybe they go Josh Downs. I'm not super high on anybody. I wonder if this is where Kalijah Kancey could go if people are really excited about him and his pass rushing chops. In fact, maybe, that's what I'll do. I'll say Kalijah Kancey does sneak into the first round, even though me personally, I very much agree with you, Theo, that somebody with that size and ineffectiveness in the run game is a risk. This is, again, another pick where I'm like, I do think teams are going to see the pass rushing and they're going to see the good combine grade and they're going to say, yeah, we're willing to take a shot on him, even if he is a little bit small. I don't necessarily blame him for that.
Well, I mean, he's a great pass rusher. Really he's probably the best pass rusher in the draft. Like, maybe Jalen Carter is better, but like when it comes to just the moves, he's probably like the best one. Mm-hmm. He's just so small. But if you're the best pass rusher in the draft, you can get taken in the first round. Yep. Like that's just the way it is.
And he tested really
that's the most valuable thing.
He's a great pass rusher who tested well. I have a gut feeling he can sneak into the first, even if we don't love the run.
The Saints do love to just make big ends. They like their ends big. Maybe they give him a shot as an edge rusher, where maybe it doesn't matter so much.
That was who I was going to take for the Eagles, because I was thinking, well, they can't pay everyone.
Fair enough.
It's like
Kancey and Jordan Davis would be so funny next to each other.
It would be. Well, and not even like the Eagles just like they have depth, and I'm just like, well, let's just keep having guys that you can rotate in. If you're worried about Davis not being, a 3-down player, well, then here's a guy that can come off, that can like pass rush for you. And then when you need, the big bodies in on those third and shorts, well, then you throw Davis in, right? But
that is kind of funny. That would be
running back from.
I think
that would be.
I'd love to see.
Big guy, little guy is always a blast. There is a certain running back from Texas on the board.
Oh my gosh, bro! How many running backs?
Some people think they'll take at 10.
The Eagles are not drafting a running. The Eagles of all teams are not drafting a running back in the first round.
Roshan Johnson,
not even at 30.
30 more. No,
I don't think they would. Miles Sanders is solid, and they can even get shit done with Kenneth Gainwell.
That's just not how they build their team. They just don't. They don't invest in running backs like that.
You're absolutely right. That's not what they do. They never do it.
But that pretty much gets rid of all of the defensive linemen that I could take here. I could take another corner. You could
take someone like Will McDonald or something like that.
I guess I could take another corner. I could take a receiver, because I guess outside of AJ Brown and Devontae, it's like Quez Watkins,
who was rough this year. Their receiver 3 position. I know it's like you need a third receiver. They kind of do, in my opinion.
Yeah, that might be the play, honestly.
But I wonder if a team.
I'm trying to think about which guy I would want more between, because it's probably between Downs.
Hyatt.
Oh, Hyatt's not. I didn't even think about Hyatt, but I was thinking between Downs and Dell.
Embarrassing 440. Dell is not going in the first round. I will tell you that. Dell is a day 3 guy after the combine. He's not athletic and he's tiny. He's not going first round at all. I'll tell you that right now for free.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. It's embarrassing 440 by Downs. He's good player. Don't
Hyatt.
You think Hyatt's
Downs or Hyatt? Hyatt had the embarrassing. People were like, "Oh, he ran a 4.4," which is fair. Like if your thing is speed and you run a 4.4, you would hope that he's the fastest guy in the draft class. But he's still pretty fast.
Yeah, I like Downs, so that's who I'm going to take here.
Fair enough. And that leaves me with the Chiefs, and I will take Darnell Wright. No, I won't take Bijan. I'll take Darnell Wright. They're probably going to lose Orlando Brown here. Now, Wright played left tackle junior year, I think it was, and didn't do very well. And then right tackle, which is the year that he just had, he was pretty great. Like he had a great year. Still very raw, though. I don't know if you want him protecting Mahomes' blind side, but he's got all the tools. Like he is someone who is very big, very explosive out of his stance. Like he takes that great first step and eats up angles. Like he moves extremely well, not just for his size. He just moves extremely well. He was one of the combine winners, someone who played well against the top competition, Will Anderson. Yeah, he can set an anchor. He can stymie bull rushes. His hands need work. His punch needs work, but you get a tackle that size that can move that well. You know, pick 31. Sure, why not? For a team that desperately is going to need to tackle here pretty soon. So I'll take Darnell Wright to end this thing.
And that is the Stay Hot Mock Draft 2.0. Thought it came out pretty good. Had some interesting picks in there. But
Jaguars fans, just know it wasn't my fault when this graphic drops. It wasn't my fault.
It is your fault, Theo.
Everyone should be somewhat happy except for them, though. They might have something to say.
But whatever.
Other than that, I think
run on corners early.
It's tough with these mock drafts because I get myself mixed up where I'm like, I don't like this guy, but then if we only picked guys that we liked, it would look pretty dumb.
Very Ohio State-y.
You know, if I wonder how many picks
Jones,
could you get
JSN.
Through? Arquan Bush at 10. This can't be right.
Ivan Pace first overall.
You think about how many colleges, how many D1 FBS colleges are in Ohio? You could probably get pretty far through the first round with just Ohio guys.
I have a Madden video coming out where I'm actually I won't spoil it.
I can use some context clues, but we're a minute 20 into this thing.
Yeah, we're a minute 20 in. So that's the mock draft. Yeah, we'll probably do another one. We'll probably do a couple more as we get, closer to the draft.
Probably just one more, right?
I'd say at least one or two more, I would say.
At least one more. I think we would get a second one in. We'll see though. But thank you all so much for tuning in. And as always, from Corn Boy, Bird Boy, and Lemon Boy, we will catch you all on the flippity flop.